Sherm has become increasingly annoyed during his news conference on Tuesday. One media member concentrated on Sherman's questioning of coach's play calling last Thursday. Jim Moore of 710 ESPN Seattle asked Sherman if he thought he had a better handle on calling plays than offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell. Take a listen.
What I don't quite understand is Darrell Bevell's calling plays that he thinks are going to work, and yet you feel like you maybe have a better handle of what should be called.
No, I just we've had a prior experience, so we talked about it. But let me guess, you have a better play call. Let me guess, you have better experience. Then you should probably kind of, stop.
What you didn't hear is that as Sherman was walking back to the locker room, he said this to Moore. You don't want to go there. You do not. I'll ruin your career. You'll ruin my career, Moore asked. How are you going to do that? Sherman said, I'll make sure you don't get your media pass anymore. Is that right? Moore asked. Yes, Sherman said, walking away. Yes, it is. So later, Sherman took to Twitter to apologize. I appreciate the role the media plays, and they have a tough job. I let it get personal today. I regret that. Next one should be fun. Stephen A., was Sherman out of line?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And in the interest of full disclosure, Richard Sherman and I spoke last night directly about it. He said that he kind of lost his way. He should not have done that. He apologized for it. But he wanted to emphasize that it wasn't him, trying to be disrespectful towards the media. It was him going at one particular reporter who he has experiences with, who he believes is more interested in sound bites than good journalism. I'm not here to critique in any way the professionalism of the journalists covering the Seattle Seahawks. I don't engage in that unless it's something that's flagrant and obvious. I was not there. I do not know. I'm just echoing Richard Sherman's sentiments in that regard. He felt like the guy was looking for a soundbite and was trying to antagonize him, as opposed to somebody that was interested in good journalism and asking good questions that would probe a good response, as opposed to, some soundbite or headline that can antagonize and exacerbate an already shaky situation. Having said all of that, it still doesn't excuse Richard Sherman. He recognizes that he was wrong, and he just said, hey, it's something that I can't allow to happen. I'm bigger than that. I'm better than that. It's not something that I should have done. I would like to also add that in the same breath that we say all of that, one of the reasons that we paired this in the same block as DeMarcus Cousins is because somebody would look to compare that to the DeMarcus Cousins situation. Both of them are smart. The difference is that DeMarcus Cousins appears to be more volatile. Richard Sherman appears to be more cerebral and is willing to dissect you intellectually and battle you in that regard, whereas DeMarcus Cousins comes across as if he caught you outside the arena, he would do something to you. That's why the DeMarcus Cousins situation has to be treated with an elevated level of concern in terms of monitoring his behavior and making sure that he's cool and he's operating on an up and up. In the case of Richard Sherman, this brother is as bright as they come. He's as smart as a whip. They're trying to win the Super Bowl championship. He had a moment where he lost his way, and that's what he wanted to make sure he conveyed to me and to the public.
Richard Sherman here is a completely different issue, I think, than DeMarcus Cousins. Richard Sherman is a Stanford-educated guy who is genuinely, it seems to me, apologetic for this situation, as opposed to someone who knows now, okay, I got to jump through these hoops to make this better. I think what happened with Richard Sherman is he gave into an impulse. He was angry. He gave into that anger, and it feels good in the moment. And afterward, maybe because he was caught, sure. Maybe had he not been caught, it wouldn't have mattered. But, he wouldn't have done this, or maybe he would have. But the point is, when confronted with this, he reconsidered his behavior. He realized it was impulsive and immature and irresponsible, and he holds himself to a good professional standard and therefore apologized for it. This is why Richard Sherman, in so many respects, is such an excellent example of the evolved modern athlete, and I'm a big fan.
You should be a big fan, but I wanted to piggyback off of something you said. Not that you said anything wrong there, Max. I just wanted to, just for the purposes of some of the audience out there, the kinds of folks that I communicate with on a daily basis. Let me tell you something right now. Yeah, Richard Sherman is from Stanford, and that definitely is worthy of being mentioned, considering the fact that he's from the streets of Compton. And also in the same breath, I don't give a damn where DeMarcus Cousins is from. You've got to monitor yourself and exercise control. You can't bring the streets to a professional environment. There's no place for that, and we need to say that. In terms of Ivy League, you know, or not that Stanford, I mean, Stanford is Stanford, and DeMarcus went to Kentucky. Well, hell, you went to Columbia. I went to an HBCU known as Winston-Salem State University.
Explains why you lose all these debates.
Well, it doesn't. That actually, you know, you got a lot more explaining to do than I do. I mean, you come from Columbia, which is an Ivy League school, and you getting your butt waxed by an HBCU alum every day.
I'm only allowed to use half my brain on this show. I didn't tell you the contract.
You
half
know
my
what?
brain is behind my back.
What the problem is you're usually using too much of it instead of being simplistic.
You may have a point.
That's the whole deal. But here's the deal. In the end, in all seriousness, what it comes down to is that I just feel it's important that DeMarcus Cousins has a bright future, man. This dude can be a superstar in this league. I want this brother to succeed. But you can't act the way that he's been acting. He may have been wrong sometimes. Like he said, some of it's going on. It's ridiculous. But what DeMarcus Aldridge has to accept is the fact –
DeMarcus
DeMarcus Cousins has to accept is that he's brought some of that on himself. Because of his chirping, because of his talking, you've got the officials monitoring everything he does. He's done that.
I brought up Stanford and the fact that Richard Sherman went there and everything, but you're right. Like, let's leave education or pedigree out of this for a second. Right. Even had DeMarcus Cousins gone to Stanford, there are some people you look at, I don't care where they're from, where they went to school, whether they're from the streets or not, whatever, you go, that's a live wire. There's something about their personality. They're live wires. DeMarcus Cousins is a live wire. I understand he values loyalty. I have had an interaction where he came on Sports Nation a year or two ago, whatever it was, 2 years ago, and I liked him. He was, you know, I don't think he's a bad guy from what I could observe or interact with him, but he's a live wire, man. You see it. And he's got to get that under control, or someone does, and it's for his own good, because otherwise that level talent, which is rare, will be wasted.
All right, that'll do it. Coming up next, LeBron.
You notice, Molly, how nice I am? I'm letting Max have the last word today.
I realized that's so important. I didn't know. I was like, I'm going to take it, get to this next debate.
It's so important to him. I wanted him to have the last word. He did Final Take. Now he's the man. He wants to be the closer. So I want him to have that.
You see what's going on, right?
Yeah, Mariano Rivera right here to my left.
I'll let him have it.
I thought you were at a loss for words.
From now on, play Enter Sandman, okay? Can we get the rights to Enter Sandman when I talk?
All right, guys.